And as you walk in, she has her hand on it. And this thing's definitely magical. As you walk in, she directs you to sit. She says, as you know,
sit down.
In lieu of monetary payment, we collect stories. And she takes her hand off the crystal, and you see it glow brightly for a second. She says, in return for your lodging and an appointment with the Dream Seers, we require a story that we haven't heard before. And she motions for you to begin.
Tarin will leaf through his book. Did I find anything? Any interesting sounding legal precedents that might make a good story for my own world?
I mean, you found a lot of laws. Are you looking for, like, the story of a particular court case, or...?
Yeah, I mean, laws based on precedent, so I figure I can spin one of the more interesting ones into a story.
What did you have in mind?
Well, I'm looking for, again, I'm looking at what's in the book. I will start with a,
Tell them about property law and taxes.
I'm going to start with a story about a man who tried to recover his inheritance after he'd been raised from the dead, and it had been passed on.
And what happened to this man?
Well, it said a bunch of interesting... There were a lot of interesting questions it raised for society. Like, whether or not... And I'll kind of go on like that. Basically, in the end, he had to split it with his own heirs, who he had a falling out with before he was killed.
And who got the inheritance the second time he died?
That's an interesting point, because the second time he died, he had his will rewritten to say that if he was raised from the dead, he would get everything. So because of that, his greedy nephew actually arranged to have an assassin destroy his soul.
Wait!
Wow.
What?
That escalated quickly.
Yeah.
And it interests me that the bulk of the story takes place amidst these laws in courtroom, and the exciting part about the assassin destroying the soul is only a footnote after the fact.
Yeah, it's a strange story, isn't it?
She's a very curious tale. I believe it will suffice. And she lays her hand on the stone again, and it glows brightly for a moment, and then dies away. She nods and tells you to send the next of your comrades in.
Okay, I'll go up the way I came and say she's ready for whoever's next.
Eldove will go in.
Oh, you guys are going to have to fight to the death over it.
I thought Nick said he'll go last.
Yeah, I just said I'll go last.
Oh, Zook's going last, because he's listening to the Gnome King all day.
Okay, well, I'll go before Zook. Right before Zook.
Okay,
Zook
so
doesn't
Eldove.
need lodging, he's just gonna sleep under that gnome's beard.
Eldove.
I need a little bit more time to actually finish writing the story.
Okay, damn. So Eldove, you go in, and it's the room that I described to
keyboarding I'm
Tarin.
hearing is.
And she goes through the motion of lighting up the stone and bids you to begin.
First, I'm just going to ask. I'd like to add some information from Fred, previous story of Fred's, if you don't mind.
Which is, well, we have many stories of Fred's.
This one in particular that I would like to expound on is the tale of the dragon and the peck.
She nods, looks
and
interested.
I'm going to start going into the story, how we got in, and how I was able to understand their language because of its similarity to primordial, and thus figuring out that these people were kind of earth elementally inclined.
Okay.
And then I go into I kind of skip over the dragon part because I'm sure that that was a major part of Fred's story.
That's Fred's favorite song, still, about slaying the dragon.
Yeah, but I go into the part about the trap filled with horrible swarms of insects and how the pack were able to come down and save everyone out of there, and how they swore friendship for the slaying of the dragon, and then I'll bring out the horn and show it.
And she asks you to touch the horn to the stone in front of you.
Will it damage the horn? Because I don't want to offend the pack.
Are you asking her?
Yes.
And she assures you it will not.
I touch the horn to the stone.
And for a moment, you feel the stone kind of pulling the horn out of your hand. It's not strong enough that you actually lose your grip on it, But for a moment you feel that the stone and the horn have become one, and that green glow encompasses both of them. And then a second later you're able to pull it back.
Alright.
And she said, how does the story end?
Well, the story ends when the horn is used once more to summon the pack to defeat whatever evil Earth-related foe that we have to deal with, but that will have to wait in the future.
She says, then we will see you again. And this
I'm sure you will.
This seems to please her. She thanks you for the story, and it will suffice for your lodging. She looks forward to the ending of the tale of the tiny diggers, and she asks you to send your next comrade in.
I head out, and I kind of wave towards Khalil.
Okay.
Hey, I'll nod, excuse myself from Mr. Fighterman, and then head on into where they were going.
And
I warned Khalil that I told the Peck story.
I'll roll my eyes for a moment.
And she goes through the same motion where she lights up the stone and bids you to begin.
I'll tell her the story of the investigation of a murder in Kiska.
Okay.
I don't really have all the details because I haven't really written it out or anything like that.
Who was murdered?
A merchant.
And what was the motive?
Motive in many things, it's money.
And who was the suspect?
The suspect was another traveling merchant from out of town. And we trying to think here. Sorry. But I'm no good at thinking on my feet like this. Like, I was trying to come up with something and it just kind of petered out in my brain there for a second.
I'm disappointed that you're not telling the story about stalking the elven noble pirate.
Man, nurse to him.
And she looks a little bit, like, not disappointed, but
I mean,
she has many stories about
would
murders.
Explain would be like, you know, very kind of dull crime scene investigation kind of stuff. It's not really like that spectacular.
Make an investigation roll. And this will signify how much detail Khalil goes into with the story. Because in a story with broad strokes like this, the devil is really in the details.
Oh, wow. I thought that was going to land on that too, but no, it's a 17 plus 9 is 26.
So, and you give her this very dry, very matter-of-fact story. And she tries to coax information out of the story that's not there, but no, you stick to just the facts. What was there? What was practical? This is what we investigated.
That's kind of Khalil's mindset. He's very factual about it.
And at the end, there's whatever the detail was that led you to apprehend the suspect, and the proof that Khalil was able to discover that tied the suspect to the crime that no one was able to discover. You see her face light up at that, and she says that the clever twist at the end, that's the part of the story that makes it a story. She's in the future, focus on that element of it. And she says this will suffice for your lodging and an appointment.
Thank you for your time.
And Khalil's like, I was just, whatever. Stories. Fucking, I don't care. And he goes back out. And she asks you to send the next of your comrades in.
Orphan.
I guess Cube would be going next, because Orphan wanted to go next to last.
Yeah, I'm almost done.
When you wave Cube in, I'm gonna say, Cube, tell them a story from your homeworld.
Cube looks at you just blankly, like he doesn't understand the idea of having a home world. Like he doesn't get it.
Tell them.
Cube, tell them about becoming. Tell them about when the mustachioed man put a table on your head.
Oh, a comedy. Yeah, that's a good idea, Cube.
Does having a table placed on your head constitute a story?
Yes.
Tell them about all the things that the mustachioed gentleman put on the table.
Tarin, you have this, what spell did you... We talked about this spell that you were going to take. That let you see at great
Clairvoyance?
distances. Was it Clairvoyance? Yeah. There it is. for the sake of the scene, we're going to say that you have clairvoyance on Cube, because what happens in this room is going to be very interesting.
Oh, the second that Cube leaves, I'm like, Captain, cast a spell. We have to see this.
Here's what you witness. Cube walks into the room and receives the instructions that everybody else does. And Cube has always had a difficult time with the concept of sitting. Like, he understands how to bend his legs and kind of squat. So, in order to sit, what he has to actually do is jump and swing his feet out under him so his butt crashes onto the ground. So he does that first. And she bids him to tell a story, and he says, "This one had a table placed upon his head." And then says nothing else. And Dan informs him that this does not constitute a story. And there's a little bit of confused conversation because Cube doesn't understand the concept of fiction or understand the concept of relaying something that happened in an interesting way. Like, he's even worse than Khalil in that regard. So she's very patient with him and tries to, because she understands it's a very interesting creature. Like, she's never seen a creature like this before. He's got something interesting in his head. So she coaxes him away from the idea of a story and tries to coax him into song. And Cube doesn't really understand the concept of song either. So she hums a melody, and after probably an hour of back and forth, he starts to grasp the concept of a melody. And what he sings for her is a 20-minute, I say melody, but he's Cube, so it's very...
dial-up tones.
Right. And what he sings are the first 10,000 digits of pi.
Wow.
Tell Cube to just touch the crystal.
And she seems delighted at this, because she has nothing like this in the collection. So you all have now heard Cube sing the first 10,000 digits of pi in a melody that has no structure or form or anything. And eventually, with great difficulty, Cube manages to pick himself up and get on his feet, and he nods/bows to Dayan, comes back into the common room and looks over at Orphan. And says,
okay.
I believe the horned Tiefling is requested next.
All right, I'll go in. But before I start, I want to object on principle that anything the Modron does would be formless or without structure. I think that the song would have been perfectly logical if you could understand what he was trying to do.
If you understood the Modron's
exactly
logic, yes.
one octave.
Right. Yeah.
It's just a dial tone for half an hour. And then Cube walks back over to Tarin and squats back down. Is there more food there? If so, he begins eating it.
No, I did not order more food.
And Orphan is invited in, and she goes through the same motion of lighting up the crystal. And she bids you to begin.
All right. So I will tell the story. It's a cautionary tale from the monastery where I was raised. And this is the tale of the man who sought to escape his fate. There once was a man who went to see an augur, who foretold that he would come to great power as king of his homeland. Now this man was married, and one of the curiosities of that kingdom was that their monarchs were forbidden to be married. Those chosen as kings or queens did so at the cost of the life of any spouse that they had. Now this man loved his wife very much, so much that he was desperate to forsake this destiny that had been chosen for him. He booked passage on a caravan out of his homeland, but the caravan was set upon by highwaymen, and the man and his wife were the only survivors, who fled back home bereft of all their possessions. He chartered then a sailing ship to a far-off land, but the ship ran aground on rocks less than a mile away, and he and his wife had to swim for their life back to shore. He sought the services of a wizard, who promised for all the man had left in the world, that she could magically transport the man and his wife to another plane, but the wizard's spell was interrupted by his blundering apprentice, and it was the wizard himself who was spirited away. It was then, when the man had nothing left in all the world but the clothes on his back and the wife at his side, that his tragedy reached the ears of the king, who was so moved at his plight that he proclaimed he would abdicate the throne, naming the man as his immediate successor. The man's wife was put to death, swiftly and painlessly, the very next day. And so the man, in his grief, having known loss beyond measure, became a wise and compassionate ruler, who always thought of the well-being of his subjects above all.
And you tell this story to Dayan, and as you're telling it, you see recognition on her face. And she says the last line of the story with you. And then, looking at you, she says, "Where did you say this monastery was?"
It's in, and I'll give the name of my kingdom, or the name of the land where I'm from, which I don't think I ever named.
She says, "This story is known to us. It's taught to all of the monks here as a caution against seeking a way out of that destiny that has been handed to you." She says, "Our head monk, Ferdak, teaches everyone." She says, "Are you a student of Ferdak?"
Would I recognize the name?
You don't recognize the name.
Okay. I say no. I've never heard of this Ferdak, and I'm sorry that I've given you a tale that you already have.
She says, "No, don't be sorry. Ferdak would be very interested to speak to you, I think."
Where might I find this Ferdak?
She says, "I'll arrange a meeting with you."
I would like that. Thank you.
She says, we'll make sure to have your lodging supplied and an appointment with the Dream Seers if you so wish. So I believe all that's left is your gnomish companion.
I'll send him in immediately, and I'll go out and I'll nudge Zook, who's still in conversation with his gnome.
Zook is half nodding off.
Hey, now, I think Zook would be very interested in this. Maybe not by now. Maybe.
Does the guy keep talking when Zook leaves?
There's a lot of boring, and then King so-and-so begat King so-and-so, and King so-and-so begat King so.
Very numbers in Deuteronomy here.
And Zook enters Dayan's chamber, and Dayan goes through the same motions of lighting up the stone, and... that's my phone ringing. I gotta take this. It's the boss. I'll be right back, guys.
Alright.
Oh,
All right,
really?
let's look
That's
at
the
chat
boss.
here. Let's see here. I'm surprised there wasn't more reaction to Cube's.
You see my link? My link was great.
Your link is pretty good. The Vocaloid, I don't know, man.
Especially if you go in there and boost the speed on it.
$10,000 digits of pi.
I don't know how many digits mine is. I think I only read 1,000.
Well, apparently the anime Vocaloid can sing more digits of pi than your robot.
Yeah, but it's not singing it in English.
I love the idea of Cube. Cube is amazing.
He was our most valuable party member.
It really is.
Are we gonna be renaming the ship soon?
We might. It's been a while.
Well, I think we have
Cube's
to,
logic.
I think we have to get Cube
Cube's
killed
logic,
before
yeah.
that happens.
Yeah, we have to get Cube killed first before we can name the ship after him.
Well, I mentioned that Cube is the most valuable member of our party, and that's because I've been making him carry all of our platinum.
Alright. 1,000 pardons, gentlemen, but when the wife calls, you answer the goddamn phone. Zook, sitting in the room with Dan.
Yes.
And what do you tell her?
I kind of ask her just before I start, are these stories made public? Is my name attached to it? It may affect the story I tell.
She laughs and says, "We have many of those kinds of stories." She
Okay.
focuses to the stone in the center of the room. Says, "The stone will record what you say and the emotions that you feel while you say it. Later, we'll have one of the acolytes transcribe it onto a scroll and place it into the library. We need not attach your name to it if you don't wish."
Okay. Zook launches into the story. Basically, he tells the story about how he got himself entangled with the guild in Kiska, and how he kind of botched his first couple attempts to getting good with the guild, and how he eventually got the mission to procure, and he uses lots of fun little euphemisms while he's telling the story, to procure this bee brooch, and how he broke into the house and found himself sort of halfway chased back out of the house, and then broke back into the house, and gives a description of this weird bedroom with a roaring fire with a pot of something boiling on it, and not really sure what that's all about, and how he just sucked up all of his courage and ran in and opened up the chest and took everything out of it, even though the room was brightly lit and he was a sitting duck, and then he ran back out and got back to the guild and gave his proof of his loyalty and his membership, and was made a full-fledged member, which has led to many other adventures that I would gladly tell you at another time.
Do you tell the part about how later on you were given the brooch back and asked to return it?
Did I ever do that?
You did.
Oh yeah.
You sure did. You went back to the house and offered it to them.
Out of character, I completely forgot about that. But yeah, no, Zook absolutely tells that, because that's the best part of the story. It's how we returned the damn thing and still got away with it.
Dan is very entertained.
And my best story, Fred, was
The story was very entertaining.
And she tells you it will suffice for lodging. And you see her place her hand on the stone, and all of the light goes away from it, and it becomes a very dark, like a parrot gray color. I'm using colors like perler bead colors because that's what I freaking know in my head. It darkens to a very dark green, and she reaches out and wraps it up in a silk bag. She picks it up, she stands, says, and extend to all of your comrades my gratitude for their stories. And welcome. Make yourselves at home. And then she leaves the room.
Yes, Zook sees himself out.
And you all are
Destil, were
shown...
we spying on Zook's story too?
Probably not. It doesn't last that long, so.
Oh, I'm assuming you had to attach the clairvoyant's eye or something to Cube's person to get it in there. Anyway, they show you down to your rooms, and like I said, this is a repurposed mausoleum. Your rooms are small, cold, very uncomfortable. You have a straw mat, and you have a box, an unlockable wooden box to put your personal effects in, and that's your lot. But each one of you have a room to yourself. Going down here, you see they've cleared out probably at least several hundred interred bodies from what used to be a mausoleum, and so they can put up that many guests if they had to. This is a very, very old place. So each of you have your own room. They fitted doors in to each spot, and you have a torch sconce on the wall, straw mat, unlockable chest. That's your lot.
You want to make a fire in this little room, or is there like a...
No, I mean torch sconce. That's all you got.
There's a torch slot. Yeah. Is there actually
This
a
makes
torch in the slot?
Khalil's skin crawl because he's used to tombs being like pyramids and stuff like that. So yeah, it sounds like a great idea. Sleeping in a pyramid.
Funny you should mention that because yours actually has a mummy in it. No, but no, there are not torches in the sconces. You could request one, or you could put one there yourself. Okay. But no, they aren't. So Khalil, it's very dark down here.
Light a torch, put it in the sconce.
Okay.
And then think about, you know what? Maybe I should just fucking sleep outside at this. This is not cool.
So is everyone kind of creeped out by this? Because I'm thinking I'm sleeping in the fucking Leoman's tiny hut, and you guys are welcome to join me.
Yeah, actually, why wouldn't we do that? Can we set one up in one of the rooms? Is the room big enough?
Not
for that?
big enough.
How big is the room?
Yeah, it would be
Not big enough.
No, it wouldn't be big enough for a Liam's tiny hut. It's big enough for a straw mat, and it's big enough for a man-sized creature to stand up and stretch out in any direction. But
is our impression that they wouldn't care if we made our own arrangements, or would they be offended if we went outside and just made our own little hut?
Have you asked? I mean, you don't know the impression one way or the other. The impression is they made a big deal about collecting stories from all of you to pay for your lodging at the quarters.
Right, but I assume that also pays for food and stuff. So
I mean, you have to ask somebody. Is what I'm saying.
I mean, Tarin is going to be.
Hey, they're cool with my. They're cool with my guy staying outside.
Should we ask, or should we just do it?
Well, Tarin's gonna stay just because he wants to stay on their good side, because he's very interested in speaking to these dream speakers.
Orphan's gonna stay just because this feels like home to her. And
Wait, your old monastery was a repurposed mausoleum?
no, but it had
The story of it
certain
all.
accommodations.
Okay.
You know,
I'll tell you
we-
guys what. I'll stay in here if Orphan sleeps between me and the door.
But yeah, you'd have to ask
Yes.
somebody to see if that would be a slight. You don't see anybody else outside pitching up a tiny hut, so that's the extent of the information you have.
You know what? Since Zook's a forest gnome anyhow, and maybe his behavior can be, construed as eccentric because he's a forest gnome, he actually will ask, like, hey, I'm completely thrilled with the that you guys are letting us stay here, but I'm pretty comfortable under the stars. Would it be considered rude if I slept outside, or if any of us slept outside?
And you're informed that a lot of pilgrims find it off-putting to sleep in a repurposed tomb. So
Okay.
many of them do pitch pavilions outside in the yard or just sleep under the stars. That is...
Okay. Yeah, just didn't want to be rude.
If Zook passes along that information, Khalil is not staying inside the mausoleum.
Well, no, Zook passes along because he has to get somebody else to make the frickin' tiny little hut. Who does that?
Oh
Is that
yeah,
Eldove?
like no, I'm
Fred
gonna
does
make
it.
the tiny hut.
Fred can do that too. So,
Yeah.
spending the day walking the grounds, talking to the acolyte, talking to the other pilgrims. Just going to walk through the numbers on the mountain here to see if anything sounds interesting to anybody. We already talked about this ruined gatehouse. Impassable now. Crumbled to rubble. Number 2 over here, you have dozens and dozens of tiny caves set into one of the faces of the cliff. Much, much too small for any of you to enter. Zook
And
maybe
Zook?
could squeeze in.
Oh, I don't like the idea of squeezing. Last time I squoze, it was bad.
Squoze.
But the point of the caves are for the Flumphs to get in and out of the Underdark. That's their passage into the mountain and back out again.
How many of these tiny caves are there? Are they like dotting the entire hillside?
They dot a whole cliff face in this area where number 2 is. And they're actually shaped like people, and when you come out the other side, you're like a weird straw person.
Nice.
You know what always bugged me about that story is, like, the guy finds his hole, and his part of the shape is his hair, and I'm like, really? Really?
Well, that's why he didn't want to go into the hole until just that moment.
What happens if he cuts his hair? Then the hole's not
That
for him
hole isn't
anymore.
made for him anymore.
That's why he didn't want to go in until just then.
Yeah, no, obviously.
I don't
Yeah.
know this story. What story is this?
What's the name of the story? It's some weird Japanish
the
word.
Enigma of Amigara Fault.
Yeah, it's fun to read. It's freaking
Yeah.
creepy, but
Nice,
Is this
yeah,
like
nice
a
little horror
sci-fi story somewhere, or fantasy
No,
story?
it's like a horror manga.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's a goofy Junji Ito story.
I
which tells
usually
you everything you need to know.
Usually, guys, I tell you don't read anime, but this is an exception. You can read this. Get this dice out of my way.
Can you read all Junji Ito? Because he tells a story about a dude who just sits in a chair.
No,
and it's
just
pretty good.
just that one issue. That's the only one. That's the one I've read. That's what I can
You
vouch
guys
for.
should read the one about the guy who hides in a chair.
Number 3 here is just a flat stone structure with walls surrounding it. No one has any idea what it was used for. It's now totally overgrown. The stone is cracked by tree roots that have grown up through it since. Number 4, in times past, was an open marketplace along the north wall. Traders would come here and do business. And of course now it's totally ruined. Anything of value has been looted decades ago. The forge is right here. And again, this was destroyed at one time, but you hear that this particular dwarf has taken up residence in the forge and has set it to rights. And now he both lives and works there. He doesn't have any particular connection with the monks, but he does have their permission to live on the mountain. He did respectfully ask for their permission, so they're on good terms with each other. Number 9, here, Poisonous Woods.
Oh, let's go there.
Yeah.
like fun.
Number 10 is a natural hot spring.
Ooh.
And the switchback path leading down is actually impassable from the mountain, so the monks commissioned some dwarves to carve tunnels from one of the basement levels of the quarters down to the hot spring. So it's a more easy, leisurely journey than trying to march down the switchback path through the woods to get down to the hot spring. And
Lousy room, but it has a hot tub.
the reason it's impassable is because number 11 here, the path comes up, and then at this point is a very, very steep cliff. And to accommodate this, they built an elevator, a wooden lift that they could winch upward to bring people and goods up. But again, it's in ruins, it's been rotted through, and the monks have not bothered to rebuild it. So this switchback path going down the mountain is actually impassable.
Okay.
Wait a second.
Mm-hmm.
The elevator was rotted through, and that was too much work, but they decided to build a giant tunnel through the mountain instead.
Who do you ask?
All your dreams, man.
I'm just saying, these monks.
I mean, who do you
They
ask?
think about things differently.
Well, who do you ask about it? Like,
I mean, they're
to get an
probably not
explanation?
engineers, or not Bricker, Nodal.
I'm not.
Not asking?
I'm not going to interested in asking someone.
Question.
Mhm.
This cursed dagger that I'm hauling around because I can't throw it away for whatever reason.
Well, we can throw it away. It would just be a very bad idea.
Yeah, because someone else might grab it and cut someone with it and not know who's
Yeah.
killing me. What do I have to do to uncurse that, and can I get that done here?
No. You
But
need
I have
someone
to
to
get-
use the remove curse spell, and monks are not clerics.
That's the only thing that'll do is remove curse spell. A
As far as you know.
can't. A forge can't uncurse it. You know what?
No.
Well, I
So-
I still might ask him if he's that good.
I was actually interested in going to talk to him. A, I could use my armor repair to get my armor repaired, and B, I'm just curious about this guy who's not willing to work for money. What is he working for?
Okay. So 13 down here, this is another
Sex.
cave entrance that goes into the mountain. Very, very ancient cave entrance, and this one, the monks have cleared the rubble from, but have put heavy wooden doors in the way that are barred. And this is an Underdark entrance that anybody could use. This is a way that goes down into the Underdark from the surface world into the mountain.
Is that the way my chatty gnome friend comes and goes, or came? Rather?
You would imagine. I mean, he tells you, yeah, you're talking to him, he would tell you as much. 14 through 17, I guess. Oh, the little guard towers are on the walls. These are just rubble. Nothing there. And then we already talked about everything up top here. Meditation chamber, ruined keep, the quarters, and the monastery. And that covers everything.
I missed 12. What was 12?
12? Oh, I didn't go over 12. 12 is the ranger's house.
Okay.
The ranger and his 2 associates live there. That was not part of the original kingdom. They actually constructed this hut years after the fact. They were living, or the ranger was, he didn't have his associates yet. He was living here before the monks got here. He was living here with his father in this hut, or in this little house in the woods. This would have been 30 or 40 years ago.
Are the rangers out all day and they come back at night, or would they welcome visitors anytime?
You have no idea.
What if I ask around? Like if I ask the people at the at the common room area,
Well, if you ask one of the fat men, he regales you with this story about how big of an inconvenience it was to have to march down to this hot spring and walk this switchback path to go all the way down just to request some meat. I ask you, my gnomish friend, isn't a man entitled to some meat?
Absolutely. When did you go up there and talk to them? When are they around?
They've actually been here for only 4 days. So this would have been about 3 days ago. But the Rangers are approachable is the idea. These fat guys went down and say, hey man, can you bring us some food?
Okay.
Tarin brushed on that idea on it, but I also wanted my armor needs to be repaired as well. I would like to.
No, I'm not,
I
I want to go to the dwarf smith guy first, but
Okay.
I want to touch base with these guys at some point.
Dayan comes back before any of you leave and informs you that Ferdak wants to speak to your group at a time that is most convenient for all of you. That can be now, that can be this evening. So the question is, do you want to go talk to Ferdak now, or do you want to go do afternoon actions first?
Is this still the day we arrived? Is the afternoon the day we arrived?
You got here early in the morning. It took you about an hour and a half to climb the stairs, and you spent the rest of the morning sitting here, giving your stories, meeting the denizens of the quarters, and now it's time for afternoon actions, unless everybody wants to go talk to Ferdak right now.
Have they served lunch yet?
No.
I'll ask if you'd care if we could join him for lunch then. If you would care to join us for lunch.
You don't want to go to the forge during the day and ask him to meet him in the evening?
No, I think this is the most. I mean, we're all together anyway.
Well, the benefit of doing afternoon actions first is that Arik might be here in time for the Ferdak conversation.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Let's do that then.
Okay.
So everybody go ahead and do afternoon actions.
Wait, where's Arik?
He had a thing,
Out of
but
character.
He's going to be
out
here.
of character, he's not here.
Right,
Okay.
yeah, his player's not here. He will be here, though. He's just running late. In fact, he's running really late now. He said it was going to be about an hour late. So everybody go ahead and put yourself where you're going to be, and I'm going to run down the list from the top left corner of the screen up here.
Okay.
And who's
I'll
taking
come see
cube?
this dwarf. What the hell?
Cube,
You're
why
just
don't you
following Tarin.
explore the
Yeah.
monastery and try and see if anything here strikes up your interests?
Listen, Eldove has an abiding interest in craftsmen.
This one does not understand
I-
what you mean by explore.
You know, just wander around, talk to people.
What is the most effective way to wander?
Cube, index every member of the monastery, and when we get done tonight, I would like you to give me a list of all of them and all of their interests.
He nods / bows and he steps out of the
There you
quarters.
go.
Oh,
Now-
this is going to be great.
You
Something
need to run
interesting
wild.
about Cube's speech patterns that you've noticed after traveling with about a week and a half now. He stopped referring to himself as it and started referring to himself as he. And he started using words like you and he and she. Like, he's understanding the concept that you are all individual people now. And that
He doesn't call himself this one anymore?
he does, but he also
Okay.
refers to himself as he.
Okay.
So he's like understanding that you all are individual people, so by extension he must also be an individual person. And yeah, he gets
Be
to
great.
work indexing all of the denizens of the monastery and their interests. Nick, where did you go to?
I went to go relax in the hot springs.
And you get down there, and there are 2 teenage girls relaxing in the hot spring as well. When
Oh,
you get
boy.
there,
Should have gone to the hot
and
springs.
they titter and giggle a little bit as you approach. They're scantily clad. You see their dresses folded up on the side of the bath.
All right.
They're wearing their underthings.
I'll fold my robes and get in with them.
And they look very... Like, they see you're dressed as a monk, and they look very curious as you get in. And they kind of whisper back and forth to each other, and you can't really make out what they're saying. But you hear titters and giggles.
Whoa, titters and giggles?
Yeah, both.
Don't get crazy now.
But they don't say anything to you.
I'll wave to them. Hello.
And when you
Okay.
address them...
No, I know. I'm just.
Yeah, I have horns. What? What do you want?
Wait, I missed.
No, you
I
start...
got cut out. I got cut out.
Oh.
What happened?
I thought you just said, "Oh yeah, I know," and I surmised you would finish that sentence with, "Yeah, I have horns. Stop staring." See, all we heard was, "I know."
Wait.
Don't laugh
No,
at me.
I was saying I know too. They haven't addressed you. I was saying
Oh.
I'll just address them first.
Okay, so you just say hello,
Yeah.
and again they whisper back and forth to each other. And there's a blonde-haired one, there's a brown-haired one, and the brown-haired one looks at you and says, "Hi," and the other one thinks this is hilarious.
All right. Well, if that's all they're gonna address, I'll just ignore them.
Okay.
Relax in the hot springs.
Be direct.
And they're only with you for a couple of minutes before you start to notice that they're becoming uncomfortable sitting with you. And then eventually they get up, dress themselves, and head back down the tunnel, leaving you alone in the hot
Right.
spring. The hot spring, however... Oh, hold on, let me check the first edition module and see how it describes this hot spring.
Wait, how
This is
hot is
very
the hot spring?
entertaining.
It
They're
says,
very relaxing.
it says
How
the
many
hot
hats
spring
are
is
there?
very relaxing.
How many hats are in the hot spring?
0, because Orphan doesn't wear a hat.
So wait, this is a module?
No. No, this
That was
is
a joke.
this is my monastery.
I was hoping there was a sweet Flumph module somewhere.
There is not.
All right, so I relax in the hot springs. Got them all to myself now.
Actually,
because
I think
too scared
Pizeo
to spend them
actually
with
did.
me.
Okay. So everybody else
I
went
think
to see the
Pizeo actually
dwarf.
did make a Flumph module.
Yeah, everybody else went down here to see the dwarf man.
Are they hot enough for you? Are you gonna make the hot springs hotter with your evil tiefling magic?
With my elemental attunement. Yeah,
Yeah.
if I want them hotter, I can make them hotter. It's
You could
a big thing.
have boiled the Valley Girls out, you know?
Yeah.
So you get to the forge, and to get there, you have to take this long, winding road down the mountain. It takes a bulk of the afternoon just to walk the path down there. But the forge itself had been destroyed by war and time and whatever, but unlike the other structures, it's been rebuilt, repaired, and has seen recent but infrequent use. And sitting out front of the forge, sitting on a wooden chair, and leaning forward, watching you as you approach, is this squat, gray-bearded dwarf. And the interesting thing about this dwarf's hair, it's very scraggly. He obviously doesn't keep it up at all, but he has a huge wound beginning by his right eye, cleaving off like half of his nose, and continuing down his face, splitting his lips, and down his chin, and then down under his neck. And
this guy's seen some action.
all of this scar tissue on his face means there's a huge split where the beard won't grow. And he's smoking this pipe and regarding you as you all walk up to the forge.
Well met.
So Khalil starts out, well met.
Yeah.
The dwarf nods.
We're visitors here from the monastery. We heard that you are a smith of some ability, and we have both, well, curiosity about your skill, as I've heard you don't work for money, as well as suffered some nasty supernatural rusting.
He
on
cuts
our
you
equipment.
off. He says, "Who told you I don't work for money?"
What was his name?
Mock.
Dragon something or
Polonius
other?
up at the monastery.
Yeah.
Polonius Mock.
Loud dragon guy.
Smock.
And he scoffs. So I work for money just fine, but I won't work for his money.
That's understandable.
Tarin laughs.
That's understandable.
So what do you all want?
Guys first, because mine's probably a long shot.
Okay, what are you asking for?
Tarin will, pull his cloak away to reveal the rusted armor and shield and say, I need these repaired, honestly.
Good God, man, you're supposed to take care of that.
It was magical rusting, believe me, I do. I live on a ship. I mean, this is... Yes, I know.
A rust monster. They're tentacle attacks. I've seen their work before.
Khalil will, all he has to do is show his own equipment, and it's in the same condition.
Khalil, what are you actually wearing?
Chain shirt and and then I've got some underclothes on underneath it.
How much to get him fitted for a suit of full plate? You can handle that, right?
Yeah, I could, but I'd lose my dex bonus.
Oh, does your character actually not want it around?
You would lose your dex bonus to AC. You don't lose your dex bonus to attacks with a dex weapon. It's not like your dex bonus disappears. You just lose the dex bonus to AC.
How much
chances are
AC
pretty
does
good.
full plate grant?
18, I think.
It would make you like less than stealthy, but
He's already less than stealthy.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think that's so much of a problem.
I mean that I wouldn't
You'd
be
swim
against
worse.
that either. Well, I mean,
Let me just look real quick and I'll see if it's actually an upgrade.
because I'm already sitting at 18 AC.
Right, but that's with a shield, right?
Yeah,
So it would go
Well,
to
you
20.
have the shield too.
yeah, it's true.
His shield's also rusted through.
Yeah, no, my shield and armor are both rusted.
Okay.
Yeah, AC
Actually,
18
he's
for
not
plate mail.
rolling stealth at a disadvantage right now. Chain shirt doesn't give disadvantage for stealth.
No, it
This is
doesn't.
true.
Yeah, that's why I'm wearing a breastplate. But, I mean, Khalil isn't stealthy.
Oh, chain
I think
shirt,
we all
not
agree
chain
with that.
mail.
So you're starting to negotiate the creation of full plate armor.
Yeah, chain mail. Yeah.
And
Oh, chain mail.
everybody roll an insight check.
Sorry.
DC is 15.
Oh, I gotta skill up my insight.
I pass.
Fail.
I
Khalil's
passed.
good.
I
Khalil-
feel like
I'm not
crazy.
there. I'm not there, but I passed.
Okay, Khalil and Eldove. Tarin and Khalil begin negotiating with the dwarf to commission a full plate armor, and you see that everybody notices right away the dwarf's not interested in doing the job. What you two notice, Khalil and Eldove, is that it doesn't seem like he's not interested in the work. You get the very distinct sense that he's not interested in working for Khalil.
That's
Unlike
understandable.
humans.
Or,
And he steers the conversation away from armor. He's like, armor I can make. So I can't promise as to his quality. I'm a weaponsmith by trade.
Well, in that case, I may have something that interests you. It's a long shot, though. And I pull out the cursed dagger, and I tell him, this dagger is cursed. I know it typically takes somebody with a uncursed ability.
He cuts you off, and he says, I don't want it anywhere near my forge.
Fair enough. I knew it was a long shot. I figured I'd as well ask. And I put it right back away. I don't want to offend him. There's not really anything else that Zook would need. He might kind of want
+1 rapier.
I already have a +1 rapier.
Let's get
Maybe a +3 rapier. That's not cursed.
That's very unlikely to happen. What does Eldove ask for?
Eldove doesn't need shit. I was just curious and seeing what kind of stuff he was making over here.
Do you ask him?
Yeah, I'm just asking, what kind of weapons do you make?
Nods.
Why did you decide to set up near a monastery?
Stands up and invites you inside.
You invite all of us inside, or
No,
just Eldove?
just Eldove.
I go in.
Jerk.
And you go in,
Maybe we should...
and he's making very plain but very strong weapons. You see he's got a couple of great swords leaning over against one wall. He's got a collection of daggers spread out over one of the nearby tables. And a couple of battle axes. And on one wall is hanging a very large, it looks ornate when compared to all the other weapons. Everything he made just kind of practical, functional, strong, probably very handy to have in a fight, but not much to really look at. This Warhammer is very different. This Warhammer, a lot of love and artistry went into it. And he walks you through and shows you about the swords and the daggers and the axes, but he does not bring up the nature of the Warhammer.
Eldove will bring up the Warhammer. He'll say, that Warhammer over there is beautiful. What's the story about that?
He looks up at it, a little wistfully. That's not one of mine. That one was forged by my grandfather's grandfather, and I wielded it myself in kinder days.
That's a family to be proud of, then.
This is indeed. So what are you looking to have commissioned? What can I do for you?
But me personally, I was just here to see an example of your work. I do some trading with the Dwarven clan out by... Where did you say their name of their place was?
I don't remember giving you a name. If I did, I've forgotten it.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. It's not important.
And he recognizes the clan name and acknowledges that they do good work. They make good beer.
And but mostly I'm just here for my companions.
What do you know of them? How well do you know them?
The Tarin's taller than...
No, Tarin's actually short.
The good-looking one is a good friend of mine. His ship actually rescued me from a shipwreck that was caused by Sahagins. He
asks what Sahagin are. This is not a monster he's heard of.
Lizard men.
And the lizard men, he makes a very sour face.
Yeah, basically you have the right idea there.
Okay. It's the gnome I can abide. What about the tall one?
He's Eldove makes a face of his own there. He's a member of the Wall Walkers out of Kiska. I will say this about him: he does do good work. If you made him anything, I'm sure he would put it to good use.
Yes, but how well do you know him?
Not particularly.
I can see
I've
it on
traveled
him.
with him for quite some time.
This is the gnome I can abide. The other one looks a bit flighty, but well-intentioned enough, and you obviously are a man of good heart, but that one, that fourth one, there's a darkness in him. I can sense it on him. I will not make that man a weapon, nor any arms.
Well, I'm sure we wouldn't want any armor from you that came out of you unwillingly, so that's between you two.
Says you'd do well to steer away from him if you could. find a place to leave him. If that Polonius Mock had brought his companions to the mountain, I would have told them the same of him.
Yeah, I get the feeling they left him behind on purpose.
It's not the story that I heard.
Oh, what did you hear?
I heard that he and his brave companions, who just happened to not have names, ages, genders, or races, worked together to slay a dragon. And when I mean together, of course, Polonius Mock did all the work. And in their infinite gratitude for his prowess, decided to stay at a nearby village some 2 weeks north of here, to wait as he sought me out on this mountain, so that he may use the spoils of his dragon-slaying endeavor to make him a great axe. That's the story that I heard. Would you like to know what's interesting about the story that I heard? There's no village 2 weeks from here, not in any direction.
So you think he did something to them?
He nods. He says, man does not come by that much money, that quickly. Not without doing something untoward.
Or betting on an arena fight.
He says, but make no mistake, I sensed it on him as well. The darkness, something bad, dwells in him. And it's on your swarthy companion as well. If you know what's good for you, he would be your companion for not much longer.
Thanks for the advice.
He nods.
And I'll head out of the shop. Go talk to everyone.
Tarin and Khalil are still waiting there, looking a little impatient and frustrated.
Yeah, a little bit.
Clearly, he is not interested in making you some armor.
What's his deal with me?
I think he thinks you're gonna stab us all in the back.
Well, then he doesn't know me very well.
That's unfortunate. Would he at least prepare his armor or mine?
Oh, he has no problem with you, Captain.
Darren's just gonna look puzzled.
Tarin's gonna what?
Just look puzzled.
Puzzled?
I don't recommend telling him any stories about onions, but you should be able to work with him just fine.
Well, I might go inside and offer him some commissions then. There's a few things I could use.
Okay. Arik's here. Arik. These guys all came to this monastery, and this monastery does not accept gold for lodging. It accepts stories, or songs, or poetry. So, at one point, very shortly after arriving, you were called down into a very plain room with the seneschal, a monk lady wearing tie-dye robes, named Dan. And she brought you into a room with a glowing green stone, and asked you to tell her a story that she has not heard.
You don't say.
I'd imagine you tell them
no pressure, but you know we want to get back in a.
Tell a sea shanty. Sing a sea shanty.
No, but think about it. We'll come.
How you uncovered corruption in the Church of Oscar.
I tell her a story she's never heard. Yay! We did it.
Think about it. We'll come back to you in a few minutes because we're going to finish up with the afternoon actions up here.
By the way, if
There's no way you get out of here without telling a sea shanty. In fact, when you go in to tell the story, Eldove goes, "Sing her a sea shanty."
Do I know sea shanties?
I imagine you do. With a sailor background, you probably know a great many.
And they're probably very lewd and.
So, are we done with the forge?
Well, I wanted to go back in after.
So, what do you commission from him?
I would like a mace, because I think having a smashing weapon would have been really nice with those stupid anti-magical orbs. And I also need to get my armor repaired if he can handle that.
Okay. He can repair the armor for half the cost of that particular piece of armor in the PHB.
Jeez, okay.
And he can make you a mace for twice the cost of the mace in the PHB.
Let me see how much gold I have on me.
You should have a bit from from Goblin Tower.
I mean,
Right.
it's not going to be super expensive. It's you guys.
Well,
have...
the armor actually is going to be fairly expensive.
I think Cube carrying around like platinum on his
I
table.
was going to say, I thought I gave you guys a lot of treasure in that Goblin Tower.
Yeah.
So
10 gold pieces for a mace, and
The armor's gonna be like 750 gold.